All right, hello and welcome to another episode of I Was There with Dave Munoz, where he talks about some amazing moments in the history of rock and roll, all seen through the lens of his trusty camera. And the photos that you're seeing were all taken on this one camera. So for folks who don't know what Days on the Green is, what is it and what is it for? And yeah.
Now, I'm not sure who came up with the term. I want to think it was somebody within Bill Graham's organization because that's what they sold out. But it was simply a concert at the Oakland Coliseum, the outdoor Coliseum, to where the A's and the Raiders played. And since we were on the grass, the outfield grass and everything else too, hence the term Day on the Green. And it was one day long. They were always one day long, and they had just incredible lineups. The particular day, Aerosmith was preceded with Foreigner and with Pat Travers and with AC/DC and Van Halen. It was crazy, but that was a typical lineup for these Days on the Green. They would usually start at about noon, so you get out there too, and it's really kind of funny because a lot of these rock stars aren't up till 3 in the afternoon. So for them to get up that early was something else. But the Days on the Green featured just such incredible lineups.
Yeah, I see the Eagles here on this list. Some ones that I'm recognizing, some that I don't. Who was like the one that everybody got excited to see?
Well, I think you mentioned the Eagles concert. And that's probably of all the Days on the Green. I think one of the wildest lineups too when you think about that. With that particular concert, the Eagles were the headliners. Right in front of them was Steve Miller, then Hart, then Foreigner. And then the show was opened with Atlanta Rhythm Section. So when you look at that, I mean, really, outside of Atlanta Rhythm Section, who really came into their own, but they didn't hit quite the the heights that some of the other bands did. You're looking at just 7-8 hours of nonstop rock and roll,
wow.
And it was incredible.
I look at an event like this. Was this unprecedented? Had we ever seen anything with such a lineup of great stars like this? And then were there any events after that were ever like Days on the Green?
Well, these days, the Day on the Green, those started out in, boy, don't quote me on this, but I want to say probably around 73, 74,
okay.
Maybe as late as 75, and they went for about 10 years before they started getting a little, sketchy with, I think, that many bands not wanting to play with that many bands.
Right.
Because, what was the advantage for them? They didn't want to share. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind it, but to me that's what I felt was one of the issues and challenges of continuing to get these, because the bands that I mentioned, and of the years, the Eagles concert with Steve Miller and everybody else, that was 78, and it was almost pre-explosion. Okay. Because the Eagles shortly thereafter came out with their greatest hits album, which just completely sent them over the top, as with a lot of the other bands too. So 78 was a real interesting year as far as bands coming in, cutting great first albums, and then also other bands that had a couple albums that really taken it to the next level. Bands like the Eagles, bands like Bruce Springsteen, who never played a Day on the Green. Right. In fact, I was going to say, not to my knowledge, but I'm sure that he didn't. At least not while I was living there. But then also the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger played on his 35th birthday, and just the excitement that they played. Opening up that show was Carlos Santana was in front of Mick and the Rolling Stones, and then Eddie Money and then Peter Tosh, a reggae artist, opened up the show. Wow. But the energy that it created outside was incredible. In fact, if you take a look at this is one of the pictures I took of the Oakland Coliseum while the Rolling Stones were playing. And that actually happened to be right in the middle of the song Miss You, where the whole place was just rocking back and forth, and you could just feel that too.
I mean, this is packed to the gills.
Yeah.
You see even people standing like in these places.
So my guess is these concerts, I'm saying probably 50,000 to 60,000 people at these concerts.
Wow. This is one of the photos, and that's a great segue. Let's talk about the photos. What were some of the shots that you got during the Days on the Green, and what were your favorite ones?
It was interesting. The only Day on the Green that I believe I had my camera at was the Stones show.
Okay.
So, and I've got pictures of Eddie Money as well as Carlos Santana, and but the other ones as well. I didn't bring my camera because it was going to be 8 hours, and I didn't feel like hauling lugging. Not that the camera's that big or that expensive, but then also you kind of lose your mind a little bit some of these concerts too for a number of reasons. One of the funniest things, when we were going to the Day on the Green, you weren't allowed any bottles of water or anything like that. They wanted you to buy everything there. You couldn't bring it in. But we were at one of the concerts and we saw people bringing in oranges. And they said, the security said, you can bring in oranges. So of course, we went back to the Bat Cave and started thinking about this a little bit. And a buddy of mine's mother was a nurse. And we asked her to bring us home about a 30cc syringe with a needle, of which we filled the 30cc syringe with vodka and injected vodka into the oranges and had an absolute blast. We had a bag full of oranges we brought into some of the shows.
Wow.
So it was a kick in the pants.
I mean, that's pretty creative. I mean, to think of those ways, because they let you bring those in. So wow.
That's a result of having way too much time on your hands, I think. But it was great. In fact, we would share. Everybody shared everything with everybody.
Right.
So it was really funny. But it was great. I could always remember when we'd let somebody try one of our oranges, just the look on their face, because they'd go, "Oh, thanks." And you can see it kind of dawn on them, thinking, "Is that Smirnoff? What exactly?"
Right. This isn't a regular orange.
Yeah. So it was a kick in the pants.
Yeah. So you said this was the day here that the Rolling Stones, the Stones were there.
Correct.
Now, was it an all-day thing? Were you there from dusk to dawn? How many days did you actually go to?
They would start around noon, and we would get out of there probably just before dark, about 8 o'clock, 8:30, because it's summertime. Yeah. You get the late sun, but you spent the day in the sun listening to rock and roll music.
Wow. Did you take a lot of shots on that one day? You said you brought your camera?
Yeah, we've got. In fact, we'll be talking about that in a couple episodes too, about the Rolling Stones concert and the stage and everything else too, because it was just very cool. But this was always just one of my favorites because you could feel the energy, taking a look at how big the crowds really were for. It's not the biggest concert I ever went to, and that's something we'll talk about a little later too. But I went to California Jam 2 down in the Ontario Motor Speedway in Southern California. Yeah. And there was 350,000 people there.
350,000 people. Wow.
We'll get into that a little later too, because that's a little bit more of an extensive story, the whole trip down and everything else.
Absolutely. Well, guys, you've got to stay tuned to hear these stories. I mean, we've got more photos from Days on the Green. We've got exclusive stories, all with Dave Munoz. Oftentimes, he's there with the camera. He's got the stories and the images to prove these incredible things. So, Dave, thanks so much.
No problem. And just for the folks out there watching as well, go online and just Google Day on the Green and watch the lineups that come up for these concerts, because it was absolutely unbelievable that these power bands would all play together so often. So enjoy, but thank you.
Wow, incredible stuff. Thanks so much. I'm Chris Grant Jr., Dave Munoz. I was there.
See you next time.